Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to do a review for Rob Zombie's sequel in 2009 to his 2007 remake of Halloween. This is the unrated director's cut. There are two versions, and they are slightly different. Not to the extent of something like the Curse of Michael Myers producer's cut and theatrical cut. It's nothing like that. This is just a straight up little bit different, because the film actually hadn't finished filming when the original theatrical release was put out in 2009, which was pretty bad. I felt bad for Rob Zombie, not because the movie's bad, I still like both versions of the film, but because even the ending was a little bit different. I remember when 2009 rolled around, and I was so excited for this film. I was so excited because of the trailer, and getting in there and seeing the movie was such a big thing for me. In 2007, we had all seen the original remake with my mom and my childhood best friend, TC, that I talked about. And we had a blast to an extent. And over the years, I fell out of love with that film. But when I saw this on premiere night, I loved it then, and I still love it now. Even though the unrated director's cut is a way better version of the movie than the theatrical cut. And I own the theatrical cut right here with the theatrical cut of Halloween 2007. I just watched the theatrical version of Halloween 2, H2 as it was called at the time. I watched the theatrical cut last year, and I remember the pacing being a little bit more, it's kind of like the Curse of Michael Myers thing. The theatrical cut is a little bit, it almost feels choppier than this unrated cut, but I just watched the unrated cut last night, and I kind of want to stick with just talking about that version, even though it's just barely different. Anyway, just wanted to make that clear as I talk about this movie. By the way, did you see my Hollywood video sticker right here? I remember being in there towards the end of that store's lifetime and finding this in the used movies section, and I picked it up. I kind of wish I had bought it brand new when it came out back in the day, but I remember when this came out in America, you couldn't find the theatrical version on DVD. Really, I'm telling you, I remember looking for it. All you could find was the unrated director's cut everywhere when it came out, and I never picked it up. Just never did. I kept waiting for both versions. Sometimes you'd have movies that would have both, sometimes. But Halloween 2, when I went on premiere night, it was my mom and I, and then there was 3 other people in that theater sitting towards the bottom. I remember where they were to this day. And one of them was a guy that worked at GameStop at the time. Like I said, I'm going to have some controversial opinion about this movie. I will tell you, even though 2007 has basically declined in my dislike for it, more and more. Again, I kind of started out liking it, loving it even, back in the day. And then over time, as I grew older, it fell apart. It's not that good of a film. It's one of the worst in the franchise, in my opinion. H2, I think, is one of the best of the franchise. At least the unrated director's cut is. The theatrical cut, like I said, is a lesser movie, but this unrated cut is so good. It's so good. I watched it again last night. Let me tell you, my wife is not a horror fan. She's not a Halloween fan. She hates the stuff. But as she sat right here next to me, well, on the recliner right there, as she sat there last night reading her book, she got invested in this movie and kept looking up and watching what was happening and not because of the violence, it's because of how this movie is so different from a lot of the Halloween films. And it gets a lot of flack for that, a lot of unfair flack. There are a lot of people out there who have the gall to complain about how they want Halloween to be a little bit different. I'm not one of those people. I like Halloween just as it is. I can accept a slasher for what it is. I can accept a slasher series for what it is. I don't need Michael Myers to be reinvented. I don't need Freddy Krueger to be invented, or Jason Voorhees, or Leatherface. I don't need that. I don't need any kind of reinvention type stuff. What I need is a well-done movie. And in my opinion, Halloween 2 is the best movie Rob Zombie's ever made. I like Devil's Rejects a lot. I think House of a Thousand Corpses, as sloppy as it is, it's kind of well made as an execution thing. And to be his first movie, that's kind of surprising. I liked 31. I have things from Rob Zombie that I enjoy. The first Halloween, the 2007 one, has some good ideas and some good concepts and some kind of tense moments because of that third act of that movie. A lot of it's a mess, but that third act really worked, in my opinion. 2009, I don't really want to call it messy, but it doesn't really have a focus on what direction it's going, because it's more of a drama than an actual straight-up slasher film. You have some slasher elements in here, but honestly, if I had to bet you, for this 2-hour-long movie, if Rob Zombie didn't have to make a kill every 20 minutes, not 10 minutes, every 20 minutes or so, I think he wouldn't have done it. I really do. I think that he would have just kept it straight razor and then had the really tense finale we have here. Of course, this is a spoiler-free review. That's why I'm kind of batting around different details and stuff, just in case you're curious. Now, let me get into the actual story of the movie. Of course, at the end of 2007's movie, Laurie is straddling Michael after they fell off of the porch or deck or whatever on the back of the house or front of the house or something. She has a revolver, Loomis's revolver, that she's trying to shoot Michael in the face, and he's about to get up, and she blows his brains out, apparently. We don't see it, but she shoots him in the face. Well, it starts raining, and this film picks up immediately after that, because the credits roll at the end of the first one when the gunshot goes off. And this one, this is after Laurie has done this, and she's wandering in the streets. The ambulance people pick up Michael Myers' body, they take him. They crash the ambulance into a cow, of all things. One of them being, I think it's Richard Breaker is his name. He's in 31, one of the greatest performances of his career. They crash, excuse me, I just woke up a little bit ago. They crash the ambulance, Michael wakes up and escapes, and yeah. Laurie is rescued by Sheriff Brackett. He picks her up, and then we cut to about 2 years later. Well, not really. We kind of have a prologue involving the hospital as a reference to the original 1981 Halloween 2. I'm going to tell you right now, that movie scene, that section of this film, it's about 10-15 minutes long, about 15 minutes long out of this 2-hour runtime, which is a lot of time to put towards something people are going to find very debatable of whether it should have been in the film or not. A lot of studios probably would have cut out the beginning of this movie with the hospital stuff, but it's brutal. It's brutal. The look of Michael, the things he does here. We have a very small cameo performance from Octavia Spencer, of all people, and she's fantastic in it. Now anyway, we kind of covered this section involving the hospital and Laurie being repaired and having her cuts and everything stitched up and all of that, and it's brutal to watch, dude. Michael gets in the hospital, starts killing people, he's chasing down Laurie. It's very nightmarish, and sometimes literally. And it's really good. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's really, really hard to watch that and not get creeped out, not to get really, really bothered by it. There's some great stuff in that particular part of the film. I really love it. Well, then we cut to the 2 years later, after Laurie gets away from Michael. And things have changed for a lot of people. Laurie is now living with Sheriff Brackett and Annie. Of course, Annie did survive the first movie. Danielle Harris comes back to play her. Brad Dourif comes back to play Sheriff Brackett. He is the best character in this movie. I genuinely think he is phenomenal. He puts through, even though he was Chucky for all these years, he puts through one of his best performances of his entire career, alongside Exorcist 3, alongside his X-Files performance. Brad Dourif is extremely, extremely talented, but he brings out the best in everyone in this movie. Danielle Harris is used better than almost any part of her career, as much as I like her in Hatchet 2 and 3, as much as I like Scout Taylor Compton and other things I've seen that are not Halloween 2007. Scout Taylor Compton, she really becomes a new Laurie, a better Laurie, a Laurie that I like more than any Laurie in any part of this franchise in this movie. She's fantastic. She hasn't learned yet that she's Michael's sister. She hasn't learned that she's actually named Angel Myers. She hasn't learned anything. She's just kind of dealing with life 2 years after this psychopath came after her. And one of her friends died, one almost did. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of a sad, depressing movie. And things changed in other places. Michael Myers, for example, had escaped from when the ambulance crashed the night of him being captured and taken away. This is a weird thing. He began to grow a beard. And he doesn't wear his mask. He just kind of wanders around. He's what people joke around calling Hobo Myers, which is what Rambo Raff for Life kind of started, I think, when I started hearing people call him that. Hobo Myers. And it's hilarious. He has this massive Rob Zombie-like beard. He kind of looks like an 8-foot tall Rob Zombie. It's kind of funny. He also wears like a big, massive hunting jacket. He actually uses a real hunting knife, not just like a butcher knife. He carries that around to kill animals and people if they attack him. But it's really kind of weird how Michael went more on the defensive side in a lot of this movie. People come after him and try to hurt him. He doesn't talk or anything like that. He just kind of wanders around in the woods. And it's kind of like a Jason Voorhees type of thing. But it's kind of realistic, and I kind of love it a little bit. Yes, I prefer the original look of Michael Myers. This is one of the weakest looks of Michael in any movie. Yes, he does have the mask at times in this film. When he gets attacked, he slips it on, and then he brutalizes you. And he's more brutal in this film than he ever has been, by the way. He grunts, he yells when he attacks people, and it's kind of hard to watch. I remember him vaguely doing that in the 2007 film when I just rewatched it just the other day, and I was listening for that, because every time I watch it, I'm like, why is he not doing it this time around? I've seen both versions a billion times, mainly the unrated, and then, well, I haven't seen the theatrical cut of that movie a lot, but I did watch it just the other day so I could get a real good short opinion on that movie. For me, this movie, Michael, is so brutal. It's a lot gorier than the previous film, a lot gorier. If you aren't ready for that, it's going to hit hard. But Michael also wears a hood up from his jacket throughout this movie, which is, again, Hobo Myers. He's also seeing his mom and his younger self in the clown outfit, a different actor this time, as kind of a vision. We're not really sure in the first movie if he was seeing it that way. Maybe this is the first time he's seeing it differently. But, yeah. And that becomes to me, that begins to affect some certain things, because a lot of people, again, I'm not expecting people to like this review, but this movie was kind of a reinvention in the sense of we went more art house style. These newer films, 2018, Kills, Ends, are supposed to be very complex versions of a slasher, and you don't really need that, but I like them, you know? But I love Halloween too. I like art house films. One of my favorite directors of all time, if not my absolute favorite, is Nicholas Winding Refn. I like Stanley Kubrick. There's movies out there like Possum. If you haven't seen Possum, it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life, involving a man dealing with his past and also having a puppet that looks like a spider with a head. It's terrifying. If you haven't seen Possum, you're missing out. I love David Lynch films. I love Eraserhead. It's my favorite, probably my scariest movie I've ever seen. I love Antrim, the deadliest film ever made. It's kind of a found footage movie, but kind of like a we found this fake movie from back in the day. Not like a real found footage like a Cloverfield or a Blair Witch Project. It's kind of an art house thing. These movies all affected me because they're so different. People consider things like elevated horror to be a big thing because they don't want to call it just I like a horror movie. It's always hipster stupidity that you have to hear say that stupid shit. But look at something like Hereditary. Hereditary, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it does creep me out. It does have moments that really genuinely get to me. Two of the beheading scenes in that film are great examples of that. The more I see Hereditary, the more I really like it and really appreciate it. Halloween 2 is like that for me. The more I see Halloween 2, and I've watched it almost every year since it came out, around October, I've enjoyed it more and more every single time. I love this movie. I think it is so well made. The art house part of it really brings it to life, in my opinion. I think it's, again, very underrated because people don't appreciate it. People don't like the direction it went, but the same dumbass hipsters who say that are the same people who are like, I want Halloween to be different, I want it to be reinvented. You need to make a decision. Do you want it to be reinvented and have a new direction to go on a new basis? Whether you like this one or not, it's different. That's a whole different conversation is what I mean. But either you want that, or it should just die, and we just don't make any movies and forget all about it. You're going to have to make your minds up, folks, because Rob Zombie tried to do something different. The Weinsteins, as scummy as they are, particularly, what's-his-face, they try to do something different. And personally, I think it really, really worked out well. I think it's a great, great flick, and I really love it. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, particularly with Michael Myers and the visions and stuff. That's a little bit of a wish-washy thing. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. It's one of the very small flaws I have in the film. But yeah. Sam Loomis, Dr. Loomis, has actually survived part 1 as well, and he's a little bit different, and I kind of like the direction we go here. It's kind of realistic, but big Donald Pleasance fans and big Loomis fans are going to be pretty upset by this movie. mainly because it kind of craps on the reputation of Dr. Loomis as a character. Not like Halloween 5 hadn't done that. Not like Halloween 4 almost does that. Not like Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers kind of does that. Yeah. You see where I'm going with this? Malcolm McDowell comes back to play him as well. And the film is grounded in reality, so in my opinion, it's fine to do what they did with Loomis here. I think it's very realistic. I think the character arc that Loomis is going through about being kind of a sellout and making money off of Michael and the tragedy that he did, Rob Zombie's trying to make points about things like that in our reality. Maybe it's not the place to do it, I don't know, but it really works for me and I've always liked it. By the way, I'm still not sure where this film takes place. You'll see people like using cell phones, but it feels like it's in the 80s, you know? I don't really know what to think of that. It is what it is. Let me know what you think about that as well. Anyway, moving along to the casting. Everybody's great, as I said. Tyler Mane is Michael Myers. He's phenomenal. He's even better than he was in the first film. He doesn't look like Myers, you know, but he does great. I don't like the beard. I don't like when he pulls on the mask. He has the beard hairs sticking out a lot of the time. I forgot to mention that. That looks like trash. But everything else looks great. I like Hobo Myers. Malcolm McDowell playing Loomis. Still good. Different version of Loomis. I'm surprised he didn't put up like a big backlash over that, but I really liked him here. Scout Taylor Compton. This might be her best performance of her entire career, in my opinion. I really like her in some other stuff, but I really, really like her here. She's really good, and mainly because this Laurie is a little bit more of an emo Laurie. I know that sounds unappealing to a lot of people that are normal, but it kind of, to me, just really worked because of the trauma she had been through. She's still trying to get used to that, so is Annie. Annie's kind of the glue of the household right now, since Laurie's living with her and Sheriff Brackett. But again, everybody else, Brad Dourif, Danielle Harris, they are all so good in this movie. Everybody's good. Rob Zombie really proved himself as a director here to me when I was a kid in 2009. I was barely 15 when this movie came out, and I loved it. I still think it's great. It's a little bit slower, but it's a good slow burn. It's not really a jump scare movie. It's not really a well-made 1978 tense-filled Halloween movie. It's nothing like that. It has a lot to say. It has a lot of goals it wants to hit by the end of the movie. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can take this film and say it's the end of the duology. Technically it is because of the two films that exist and there's no third. But they were going to make a Halloween 3D back in the day. And I recently found the script online and read it for the first time alongside the Halloween Returns script. I'm going to tell you right now, Halloween 3D would have been great. And it would have been a great place to end off this movie series, this Rob Zombie reboot, a remake or whatever. It would have been great for that. It really feels very well made, in my opinion. There's moments that are in Halloween 3D script that are showing up in here on like set pieces and that kind of thing. And I think it would have been great. I think it would have worked extremely well. Maybe not the 3D part. I kind of wasn't happy with that when I read the script, but everything else sounded really, really good and sounded like it would have been a really cool thing to have for that movie, alongside all the references to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch in that movie. Anyway, the writing here I think is very good. I didn't pay attention to the credits to see if Rob Zombie wrote this version. I don't think he did. I think it's the same two guys who wrote the Halloween 3D script that was going to be made the next couple of years after this movie. So about 2011, 2012, we were going to have 3 of these. It doesn't feel entirely like a Rob Zombie script. It feels organized more. Not entirely, but more. It feels like the conflicts, the character stuff. This is a big character study movie, and the first film aimed for that, and it completely failed at that. This movie gets it better. It gets it perfectly, in my opinion. I think that it's just very, very well done. And I'll tell you, there's some moments in here that actually make me very, very sad, that really hit you right in the gut. They really do. It's a good thing to it. It really makes you feel something sometimes. And I'm surprised more people don't say that about this movie. It's a very, very underrated movie, like I said. The look of the film is really good. It's very dark. Not like an Alien versus Predator Requiem type of thing, but like, it's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be kind of gritty. Not really gross, just gritty. A little bit more grimier in some aspects. A little bit less sometimes compared to the first 2007 movie. It looks good though. I really like it. I like the shots of the fields when Michael Myers is walking around at night and you see like the mist and stuff and the fog floating around. It looks great. All of that stuff really culminates into a great movie. A really great film that really got to me. And about halfway through this movie, I checked the clock once, about halfway through this film is when it really starts to ramp up. And really, for the next hour, starts to build and build and build and get tense, man. Again, more as a character drama than anything. If you love Drive from Nicholas Winding Refn, you get where I'm coming from with that. It's kind of a slower paced film, but it builds and builds. And this movie's like that. It just landed for me. It is such a great movie, and I cannot believe that people don't talk about this more or appreciate it more. There's no CGI from what I can tell. Pretty much everything in here is practical effects. You don't really get to see all the kills perfectly. Rob Zombie's never been good about framing that, where you really get to see a lot of the gore and grime of the movie. But the parts that we do get to see here, in my opinion, are a lot better than what you had in 2007, and a lot better than what a lot of the Halloween films show you, like in Halloween 4, for example. They're not really cutting away from a lot of the kills and all that. It's not really a scary movie, but I don't really think you can do that with Michael a lot of the time. Even the newer films, I don't think make Michael scary. It just makes him kind of fun, like with the teeth scene from 2018. But the stuff that Rob Zombie wanted to do here, I really like it. I really appreciate it. The practical effects are no different. They are really, really cool when you actually get them. Because again, there's not a lot of killing in this movie. There's kind of 20 and 30 minutes of nothing sometimes. Looking at the music, though, this is a very interesting thing. It's kind of a flaw of this movie. There are easily moments when you should have had the Halloween theme song kick in. As I said, last year I watched the theatrical cut. This year I watched the unrated cut like I typically do in this exact same copy that I've watched all of my life of this movie. The unrated cut doesn't have the theme song until like halfway through the credits at the end of the movie. It doesn't start off with that. It doesn't really have any of the theme song in this movie, which is a major sin in my opinion. That theme song is too good. I don't care how overused Rob Zombie thinks it is. That's a terrible idea not to have that in this movie. And when it's there, halfway through the credits, it's really great. The rest of the film's music is suitable. I wouldn't know if I would call it good. It's just fine, But there are scenes, one in particular involving Michael Myers in a mirror, that should have had the theme song. It would have really, really brought this movie even more alive. And I think that's one of the big things, too, people don't like about this film. It seems kind of insulting not to have the theme song in the movie. And I kind of agree with that criticism of it. Again, the movie has flaws, but I think Halloween 2, the unrated cut specifically, it has some choppiness to it. Some of the editing's not perfect. But compared to 2007, and to improve, if you saw my review for that, to improve from 2007 to 2009's sequel, the way Rob Zombie did as a director, the way he did as everything, the way the writing rounded out, the way the people rounded out the characters in the script and everything, it came to life so well. It's a beautiful movie in so many ways. The art house part of it really hits me, and I really like that about it, even if most people don't. Anyway, when it comes to Halloween 2, the unrated director's cut, I'll tell you right now, I love it. I love it a lot. It's flawed, but I love it. If I had to rate this movie on a 5-star basis, I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it really has a lot to offer, and I think if you haven't seen this film in a while, kind of just ignore Halloween 1, the 2007 film. Jump right into this, watch it as it is. You already know the story because Halloween 2007 is just a really bad remake of the 1978 film. Just jump right into this. Treat it like another Halloween film. Remember that Laurie and Loomis are there, but everything else, just treat it as its own movie. Watch it this year. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about the film, because I think it's extremely, again, underrated. It's a great flick. It's fun. It's crazy. It's insane and wild. It has so much going for it. And people don't give it any credit at all for what it tried to do. But people will love 2018, and they'll love kills, even though it obliterated everything but the original movie in its canon. But it's a sin for this film to do what it did. That's crazy to me. It blows my mind. Even though I like 2018, I like kills a lot. I love them even, to an extent. But I really, really, really love what happens here. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars for me. What would you guys rate this movie? What would you think about it? Do you think it's the worst of the franchise? Some people like Rambo Raff for life. My boy, I love him to death. He hates the movie. He thinks it's one of the worst movies ever made of the franchise. I think that if you can look at this, not shading him, but if you look at this and you think this is worse than Halloween 5, I think that's crazy. I think that's absolutely unbelievably crazy because this is a more well-crafted, well-cared-for movie in a lot of ways, and it shows, in my opinion, even now, almost 13 years later? Yeah, about 13 years later. That's crazy. It's almost been around for another 15 years when I was 15 going to see this. Anyway, what are your thoughts about the film? Put it down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you have to say about Halloween 2 2009, or H2 as I used to call it. This movie used to have the original poster that had just Michael's face, kind of with the picture of the stairwell from the hospital in this movie. And it used to be my desktop background on the computer in my office. I loved it. I guarantee you if I could get that thing to turn on, if it hadn't gotten all wonky as an older desktop computer thing, the way that happens, if I could turn it on, I would bet you money that H2 would be my background still on the back of that movie, or on that computer. Anyway, I am going to start watching 2018 now. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, God bless you, and happy Halloween. We have 2 more movies, and then the third one being Halloween Ends to talk about soon. So anyway, it's coming out this week. I need to get on the roll, you know, and finish up these reviews, get them uploaded and whatever. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, God bless you all, and goodbye.